All right, welcome to the Monday Night Men's Forum. I am Matt, Farm Hop Life. There we go. Tonight we're talking about point of no return. Yep, there's a typo. That's intentional. We got Christopher, SecureCoop.com, Alex, the Farm Engineer, Jeremy at Do We Like Donuts, Homestead of Pain, and Scott, Thriving the Future Podcast. Damn, we got a lot of people in here tonight. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
These days,
Thanks for showing up.
turn his camera on.
Yeah, he did it once. He got made fun of.
No, I've done it. I think twice.
Right.
All right. Real quick, let's do some personal events. Christopher, you're up.
Yeah, so pretty boring week, but sat with the wife and talked about my oldest son is turning 18 pretty soon, so we sat down and talked about the goals for his life. And when he's 18, he can make a lot of decisions for himself if he chooses. So like if he says I'm just done with school, or I want to leave, or whatever, we can't stop him, and so that changes the dynamic in a lot of ways. With an adult in the house, you have to go like, okay, he can do what he wants. How can I still continue to guide him along, get him along the way, because he's not quite finished with school. And the good news is that he is not complaining about continuing to do school. Because I said the alternative, if you decide you want to drop out, quit school, you can. Just that the consequence of that is then you got to get a job. so he's like, yeah, I don't mind. I'll just keep doing school, and he can keep on, and we'll just keep getting progress reports and make sure he's along the way. So it's an exciting time. We're getting close to at least him finished up. So
nice. Yep. That's kind of like that's something I don't even really want to think about right now.
It's coming your way. It's coming faster.
I got too long.
Think. Yeah, it's coming faster
afraid
than
of.
you think.
Awesome. Thank you. Alex, welcome. First time on the Men's Forum. So
great to be here. Thank you.
You're in Tennessee, is that right?
That is correct. I'm up at the plateau.
Sweet. So give us a quick personal event, like something that happened this weekend. What'd you get done? That kind of thing.
All right. Yeah, sure, man. I found a new church. It's always good to find people who like to sing. I just pick churches that sing really well. That's all I care about. That's the best part for me.
That's what matters the most.
I need to you gotta go wake up, man. So you hit me with a sermon. I'm gonna go back to sleep on a Sunday morning, man. I need to say,
where it's at.
Yeah. The bad news, my Ram died, and I'm gonna say he had it coming. He died of worms, and we tried to deworm him. No, a real. Oh man, if I had lost a truck, that'd be way worse than losing this guy. He's a good guy. Man. He was just a big dumb. He's like Lenny of Mice and Men. So when we tried to deworm him last time, he like balked and attacked us and all this. He's just absolute belligerent. So he didn't get dewormed last time, on a 6-month schedule, and he succumbed to worms. Unfortunately, it was a grisly thing, but that's how it goes. I had to dispose of the body over on Buzzard Hill, and other than that. I had a 20 for 20 success rate with Orpington chicken, so now I'm a big Orpington fan. They are hearty, they are friendly. I haven't seen their egg quality yet. I heard they're not as good layers as Barred Rocks, but they don't try to attack me like the Barred Rocks do. So things are moving along, learning some lessons.
Just kick
stuff.
Them, they don't attack you anymore.
Oh man, I've got this one suicidal rooster who is a Cornish, like a proper.
The rooster, that's a different story. Yeah.
Rooster, you can't fix it.
No, I just
get a rooster
him.
He's afraid of me. So.
Oh really? You built the fear of God in him, huh?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I
gotta try that. Okay, maybe another time. That'd be good. Thank you.
All right. We jumped all out of order. I don't know. People jumped in, and so we got rearranged. Scott, looks like you're next.
Okay, so it was 108 degrees this weekend in Kansas, 122
Florida
heat index. This morning, I think it was 100% humidity, and not much else going on. Lost a chicken, and just hot. At one point,
lost the chicken from the heat.
Yeah, at one point the car said it was 116 outside, but I think that was because we were in the parking lot.
The heat from the blacktop.
Yeah,
people want to know why the Earth is heating up. It's because of all the blacktop.
Yeah, you pay paradise and put in a parking lot, then you get Then you get heat and you get Hurricane Harvey runoff like
See,
in Houston.
it is man-made climate change. All right. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah,
Good to have you.
we've got a problem like down southwest of Wichita where all the storms brew up is like a huge wind farm, and it totally messes up the Doppler radar. So is that the wind farm or is that a tornado coming this way?
It's a little bit of both.
It's increasing the tornado.
Yeah, it's spawning the tornado.
Yeah, good to have you here. It's been a little while.
Yep.
Thanks.
John.
Howdy. What am I saying? Give me the
just
prompts. I missed the prompts.
Just a personal event. Like, what'd you do this weekend? What'd you get done?
I got my freezer fixed, so my walk-in is now freezing, so that's good. I also fixed the transmission on my mixer grinder, but then something else broke on it, the in-feed auger. So that's a bummer. I think one of the I got some YouTube videos posted, and if I remember correctly, one of you guys were asking me about my chicken tractor, so I did some in-depth, like what's my chicken tractor look like, what some of my systems are that make it operate. So if you guys want to jump over to my YouTube channel and see how I do that, maybe it's something you could incorporate on a smaller scale and work for your homestead.
Well,
there you are. I just subscribed.
All right, super.
I didn't know you had a YouTube. So everybody go and subscribe to Amber Oaks Ranch YouTube.
Yeah. Amber Oaks Ranch. Yeah, I just started, but I've got quite a few videos up there that not very entertaining, but certainly educational.
Hey, that's some people just want the meat and potatoes, right? Yeah. They don't need all the fluff.
Gotcha.
All right,
like that anarchist icon you got there for your.
It was
channel.
Supposed to be subtle. It was gonna be like hush hush about it. All right, Jeremy.
I started. I'm giving my chickens Wi-Fi. I'm running. So I've had chickens since 2020. I had a flock before that years ago, but I decided it was time to finally run power, water, and yes, Ethernet out to the coop. So I'm putting up some PoE, power over Ethernet security cameras out there, so I can keep a check on them from inside. And the goal is actually to stream it to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube because people will watch that stuff.
They will.
Yeah, like Tim Pool and his Chicken City.
I don't know that, but
yeah.
What's the there's the guy that Nate Petrosky, I think is his name. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name.
So
he's got his lawnmower.
I see that constantly.
He's got a GPS driven lawnmower. They're like $3,000, but he put a camera on it and it just runs around and cuts grass all day. And there's like constantly 500 people in that line.
How much lawn is he mowing?
He has several acres.
But I think that would just covers like a portion of his.
But like it's nonstop. Like I could probably pull it up right now, and he's probably going.
No, it is. I just saw it
right now.
Wow.
It's self.
There he is.
All right. So you're gonna. Wow. It's running at night. It's got a headlight.
And people are watching this.
Yeah.
This is worse than watching other people play video games.
There's 487 people in there watching this right now.
I like mowing the lawn so much. I want to watch other people mow the lawn.
Except
so
they're not watching Pizza Roomba.
But so I saw that about a week ago, and I was like, if people will watch a lawnmower, maybe they'll watch chickens.
Yeah, exactly. They will.
There you go.
And like he even said,
I don't know that you should be encouraging them. You should tell them to get out and get a life. Do something.
Well, yeah, or just harvest their time.
You'll get clicks out of it.
That's
Jeremy
if they're gonna sit there on TikTok. Types. If they're gonna sit there on TikTok and watch videos, they're gonna
might as well be yours. Might as well be chickens.
Exactly.
Right.
So Nate even had put a video out that one day he made like $2,000 off of letting that thing run for.
See, that's why Jeremy is doing that, John. Right. That's exactly why.
Now, I did put my iPad out there one day just to test it, and I had anywhere from 5 to 10 people in there at a time. So like, it's not a Yeah, he's got millions of followers. Too,
What you
so
got to
it's-
do, Jeremy, is put a little.
I got to start
gravestone.
somewhere.
You got to put a little gravestone that says red on it. Then people will watch.
What you need to do is figure out how they can automatically feed your chickens through tips.
I've
Yeah.
thought about it. I've thought
Yeah,
about
there
it.
you go.
Okay,
Yeah, that would
so
do it.
there's a YouTube channel out there
It does
that
with
he's built
ducks.
something like that, built off of
Clinical flat.
Raspberry
Put it
Pi.
in your cup.
Yeah, but if people are paying women to eat fake ice cream, I'm sure you could have it
Oh,
drop
I see
real
what you're
kernels
saying.
of corn.
Wow. Yeah, you're right, Drake. All right, thanks, Jeremy. Let's keep going. Grant.
I'll be back in a second.
I'm sorry. Back up a second. I might have missed something. So did you say that you can like remotely like feed your chickens and people would pay to allow feed to fall?
Yeah,
It is possible. Yes, I've seen people that do that.
I'll
That's
send you. There's a YouTube live that does it, and they do it with ducks, and they go through hundreds of pounds of food on these ducks a week.
interesting.
Spoiled.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to digress.
That's all right.
I got to figure
Grant.
out how to make money. So
Grant,
I
go.
started
Gullible
school
people.
back last Monday. So I'm back in school, back on that, another semester under my belt, and still waiting to hear back from the plot so we can get the house appraised to see if we're going to be moving and getting more acreage or not. And I got ducks.
Yay.
Nice.
I didn't want them, but I didn't pay for them. So
What kind
I
of
But you have them enclosed in IBC totes, right?
no, I was given a another rabbit hutch, and I got them in that with a sizable like tote they can swim around in.
The tote got to be in there somewhere.
Well,
Yep.
it's not an IBC tote; it's just like a little mini storage tote.
Totes of all shapes and materials. Shape, sizes, and materials. Nice. Drake, go ahead.
I've been getting some free ducks the last couple weeks too, but that's because I just keep having Muscovies come out of the woodwork with little fluff balls following them around. Had a couple chicken broods show up in the last couple weeks too, but yeah. Otherwise, no complaints this time of year. We just try to keep up. Nature sets the agenda, just steamrolling along, and starting to feel like fall here. While you guys are all sweltering, it was 82 degrees. It peaked out today here.
A cool 82.
Yeah, it was a hot
Nice.
82. I was sweating, but I won't complain to you guys.
Hey, that's fine. It's all relative, right? We got a cat a couple days ago, and so I spent all day building a cat tower yesterday. Like I made it way more elaborate than it needed to be, but the cat's happy, and the kids are happy, so that's all that matters.
Is it a baby kitten or
No, it's 3 years old.
let's take dibs on how long it takes for it to start ignoring that and start using your couch.
It is outside. It was in the bathroom, and it stunk like hell, and so I brought it outside. So there will be no mutilation of the couch by a cat ever.
That's what you think.
Uh,
It'll find its way inside.
I'll
It'll
just
end up
call
indoors at
Grant
some
to
point.
take care of the cat.
I don't want your cat. I don't want my cat.
Take care of the cat.
Oh yeah, I'll do it. You're good.
Well,
You can do that
Okay.
remotely, I hear.
if you want to make that lawnmower stream more exciting.
People might pay for that.
Oh god, we're gonna get a call from PETA. All right. So point of no return. This is kind of Jeremy's idea is kind of like this, right?
My
This is a
idea.
form of entertainment, like
Oh.
being able to virtually like feed people or virtually feed chickens and then like get something in return. Like this is weird. This is like weird form of entertainment. So like how man is also like the point of no return. I guess let me back up. I guess depending on which way I point. For me, it's up here. Might be down here in the YouTube. The V is a intentional typo because that's how the Romans used to spell it, and like it's been like a meme. I don't know. Maybe Scott knows more about this than I do, with like the Doomer Optimists or something, and like we must return to like tradition and the way things were. What you got? Anything to add on that, Scott?
Yeah, I do. So it's funny because I'm interviewing the Michael Thomas from the Catholic Land Movement on the podcast. I've already interviewed him, but it comes out this week. And he's had a Twitter war with the DOs about can you have trad without religion? And they got into a big old spat.
That's a good point.
It was pretty. I mean, it was brutal.
Who won? Religion?
I don't know. I think it was basically like you know?
I don't know if anybody wins
block.
on the internet.
No, they don't. That's true.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was entertaining though. But I mean, that's a good point. Can you have tradition without religion?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Dude's getting stuff done with his chapters and everything else. I mean, he's more organized than the Freedom Cell guys.
I'm not familiar with this. So what's his operation?
So he's in upstate New York, and he's organized like pretty much the Freedom Cell model, except it's Catholic parishes, and then they teach each other homesteading skills and stuff like that, and then they have a regional conference and stuff like that, and they're organizing, but without all the, the prepper Freedom Cell stuff.
Okay.
Interesting.
So in his case, it is about religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was some, and so basically what he said was there was this movement, Catholic Land Movement, back in the 1920s, where some of the priests said you need to resist modernization and go back to the land. And so there's a series of essays by these leaders at that time, and so you've got this trad cath revivalist thing going on with that movement. It's actually pretty interesting. So
you guys talk about that in that episode that's coming out?
Yeah, it comes out next Sunday.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. You guys,
we didn't talk about the DO war though.
Dang. Need some drama.
Yeah. Well, can't be
what
positive
about the rest of you
solutions
guys?
if you piss off your host.
Yeah, that's
or your gas rate.
I guess that's true. What about the rest of you guys? What do you guys think? Tradition without religion possible?
Yes.
Or
yes, because tradition is simply tradition. It's just something that your dad did, your grandpa did, your great grandpa. It does not necessarily have to be religious in the strictest sense of the term. Tradition of America, though, is religious. So if you want to fall back into that, into a specific kind of tradition, say I like the tradition of America, then you've got to adopt a religious perspective. Otherwise, it's not classic America.
that's my question too. Is like, okay, so if we're gonna return to tradition, like what traditions? Like traditions of like just knowing how to do stuff and how knowing how to fix our own things and that.
Well,
just
let's
like knowledge.
Tradition.
Define tradition, right?
Yeah, you got to define. So, are we talking about like cultural tradition? Because I think the fundamental question there would be then: can you have culture without religion? Is there an example of culture without religion? And then each culture has tradition, and I don't know. I guess we
That's
need
a good
to
question.
we need to zero in on exactly what we're talking about. I don't know if you could have culture without religion.
I mean, the lack of religion could be a culture, right?
But then it becomes a religion in and of
It becomes
itself.
a religion in and of its right.
Yeah.
It's also the
I mean,
longevity of the.
I don't know the answer, but I would think that it's unlikely that you would have culture without religion, without there. I can't think of an example of a culture without religion.
And a culture is not in itself a tradition. A tradition is the handing down of culture from one generation to the next. So we have cultures that have been non-theistic, and
sure,
they don't really. Yeah, the spread just isn't there, right? Like if you think of spread like almost like a disease spread, right? Like the ideas and cultures spread a similar way. You have to have like what's the potency of that culture, and religion kind of makes people cohere in a way that they don't otherwise. Because it's this religion in basic form is the subjugation of your personal morality for a greater morality that you've accepted. Like every religion is about submission of some sort. or else you're just an author of your own morality. It's your religion, then you're a cult leader. So,
but
it's still a religion, and
and then does the culture itself become the religion? Right? You said sacrificing yourself for the greater.
Sacrificing your moral opinion.
Right. So then is that then the culture that you're trying to propagate or uphold the values thereof? And so I guess we would need to define then too, what is religion?
Yeah, it's got to be metaphysical. I mean, religion has to be metaphysical, or else it's be. And even like the idea that I don't know, just say like human life is valuable. That's a metaphysical concept. It's actually not obvious to anybody. You have to have some higher power to tell you to do that. Now, if you have a culture that doesn't see that human life is being valuable, your chances of spreading that culture are very low. Your tradition dies out. That's why you have there used to be this when I was in high school, this militant atheist movement, and that kind of just died out after a generation. They don't really have the potency they used to. That's probably because they don't have social coherence. So whatever a culture or tradition is, it requires some social coherence, and it seems like people need this metaphysical beyond the materialistic motivation to be social. And being social is a surrendering of your own interests for that of the group. It's to some extent, one way or another.
All right, I think we can end on that. I think that's
well, interestingly, that's we talk about memes, but memes when it was first spawned was from Dawkins' book, and it was actually that kind of thing that you use to propagate and convey your tradition from one generation or one group to the other in mimetic fashion, right? But we should Little Pine Farmer in here because he likes talking about that.
He couldn't make it. He's got chores tonight, chores
he talks about that all the time. Yeah. But it's like we were talking about this with Cyprian not too long ago, and he was saying that tradition is what worked, and then you pass it on. It's like Homestead Padres out foraging elephant's foot, right? Which is it's completely toxic except for the tuber, right? So all these people are like eating part of the plant, but they know the rest of the plant is toxic. And if they, like nixtamalization or whatever they do to corn to, in the Southwest to get the niacin out of it, they treat it with lime, and the Hispanics do that and stuff. And, how do you get that trial and error? Oh, well, he died. I guess we'll try it again with Joe, right? And then you keep going until no one's dying anymore. And okay, this is pretty good. Let's write this down, or let's pass this on verbally to the next generation, right?
Yeah, I've always wondered who's the guy that picked up a mushroom off of a pile of cow shit and decided to eat that.
Somebody that was really hungry.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why there's a lower end of the Gaussian IQ curve. Those people do have a use, and apparently it's finding out which foods you can eat and not eat. As a kid who ate a lot of stuff I shouldn't have.
So, bringing back the culture versus tradition. So, are we lacking the skills and knowledge because of the culture or because of the lack of tradition?
Can I jump in? Like, I'm thinking out loud here. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have a tradition, that means you have to subjugate yourself to someone else. You have to say that the way my grandpa prepared elephant's foot was the way to do it, and I just trust him. I don't know how it works; it just does. And in every generation has a tremendous amount of rebellion and doubt, especially in the United States, against this previous generation. And how can we possibly have any tradition to the Gen Z? We'll say the Gen Z question. That's terrible. The question of like the later this new generation, like, can we subjugate our will to that of our ancestors?
I'll jump in and say this is, I'm Gen Z.
He's more Gen Z than any of us.
Are Gen Alpha, and I'm thinking, okay, our traditions come from our grandparents, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my grandmother, last grandparent I have, doesn't really even uphold the same traditions as her grandmother did at her age. She doesn't can preserve. She doesn't have a pantry. She has 2 cabinets worth of food and won't keep anything more in her house. So you kind of have to look at then that getting passed down to your Gen Xers, who are mostly the parents of the Gen Zs. Boomers are parents of the millennials. it's more so the parents having to instill that on their kids. And like you said, there's a lot of rebellion, but there's also that chain's been broken, and you just can't really slap that back together. You know, you're not going to have a whole lot of Gen A alpha coming in and wanting to get up and pick into a lot of that stuff, especially early on when they're being tempted by such things as video games and social media to kind of return back.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, though, because we're seeing a lot of the younger generation returning back to a homestead lifestyle. Not mass.
It's still very fringe.
Not in the masses, but we're seeing a lot more of that. And so to Grant, to your point, I mean, it could be an act of rebellion because
and it might
the Gen X and millennial generations have gone to work and done all this stuff, and so they're gonna.
Did they receive that as a tradition, though? Is that like part of their traditional,
or is rebellion
heritage?
Tradition?
Well, I don't know.
I would say it's them.
So do we pick up like in the global world that we're in, right? With the interconnected world that we're in, the traditions. I mean, you can pick up traditions from other tribes, if you will, right? And I think there's a lot of cross pollination that goes on, and so people themselves intuit that something isn't right. They see something from another tradition, and they think that is something that they desire, right? So I don't think it's traditional. I don't think it's traditional in the traditional sense, in that it's not being given to you by your forebears, right? This is you're picking up a tradition that may be foreign to you. It's traditional, but it's not your tradition. It's almost like a misappropriation of a tradition. Not to say it's a bad thing, but
it's almost like each generation is trying to like reinvent the wheel from the generation before that, or
well, I mean, think about traditions before and how you would get them, right? And so basically, people never really left their community. You were inside of a geographical space, inside of a family space, multiple families, multiple generations thereof, all geographically located. You had direct communication with. Now that's not the case, right? You're probably geographically dislocated from your parents, grandparents, and your great-grandparents you may not have even seen. So how do you receive these traditions? And I don't think that you do. I think you adopt traditions that you are exposed to via social media, Hollywood, etc.
Right.
And so are they even traditions, or are they just fads?
Well, you break that down further. You have your family traditions, and then you have kind of what used to be tradition, and kind of picking that back up. What used to be tradition, being closer to the land, used to be very common. Now, you may not be able to have the same property your family had, or any of the same knowledge they had in your specific region, but you can kind of get back to what was tradition in the sense and the overall aspect in time. Because a lot of this small scale farming and homesteading kind of takes you back in time.
I would think that the most consistent tradition that we have is our religious belief, because it's pretty well indoctrinated into you when you're, less than 10 years old. And then you kind of make that part of your being and you bring that forward. You may reject it or what have you. But that's probably, I can't think of anything else that's passed down more than that. I mean, certainly our national identity isn't any longer, right?
No.
Yeah. And so what is tradition that you get in the traditional sense? And the only thing I can think of is, the religious beliefs of your parents that you assume.
The other thing that plays a role is living somewhat close by to where you were born. I can't remember the statistic, but something like 80% of people die within 50 miles of where they were born, give or take. And so, I don't know if that's a totally made up statistic, especially within the last 3 years, people have just moved all over wherever they really wanted to go. But I mean, if you stay around your home base where you presumably have more family, that would also encourage further tradition.
Yeah, like what you cook on Christmas Day, different, candies that you make. And, cooking is another one of those things, right? Because you're inculcated with that, when you're less than, 10 years old. You establish these patterns that you try to recreate as you get older to, have those recollections of when you were a kid.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgic. Yeah.
Well, and I think the thought of traditions, the first word that was coming to my mind when I was trying to wrestle with this idea of tradition is sort of ritual. And I feel like, or we're getting away from traditions because like a lot of our rituals are not, they're just eroding. A lot of things are done sort of an imitation of ritual, but then food is one of those things where the cultures took on these rituals / traditions, but for very real reasons, for like food preservation, right? Like you followed the traditional recipe of how much salt to put in the barrel because that's how you didn't kill yourself, or you ate wasabi with your sushi because might counteract the raw fish. And so then it seems like in this modern era, all those things, because our cultures are just mishmashing together, and industrial foods and all these things, like there's no hard rules for why we should maintain strict rituals because, we all
eat refrigerate. We all eat turkey on Thanksgiving, even though nobody really likes it.
But now I want sushi though, because we're talking about sushi.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Now, that's an interesting point though. I mean, like all the reasons why we've done all these things for years have just they had a legitimate reason why they were done, and now it's just the way that we've done it. It's tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've lost the message, but you've still got the muscle memory to some extent. But when you lose the message, then it becomes real sloppy. Potentially, you lose the information, and then next thing you know, I'm reminded real quickly of a story when folks in northern Minnesota. The Swedish or Norwegian culture up there, and they all in the upper Midwest, they're eating lutefisk to sort of celebrate their culture. And then I once was at an interaction where sort of a northern Minnesotan and then an actual Norwegian got together, and the Norwegian was like, "What the hell? We haven't eaten that stuff in 400 years. That's disgusting. That's like only for when the crops fail. Why would you ever touch that?"
Oh, it's only for the crops fail. That's awesome.
That's too funny. Well, can you pass down a tradition over social media? That's the big question I have. And I had to. So I went to a Danish Christmas. Speaking of Norwegian-esque. And when I was a kid, I had a Danish girlfriend. Highly recommend. They're very tall and they're very beautiful. And her family was very cohesive. And they sang in Nuligan or whatever. Their language is just bar to me, but it was fun. We danced around the Christmas tree, the whole family, everybody made a fool of themselves. Everyone from grandma who's like there during World War II all the way down to a 14-year-old girl who's on her cell phone the rest of the time. But they put down the cell phone. They danced around the tree to a Nuligan. And it's like, and that made a big impression on me. Just the tactile feel. I can still remember the smell. I can remember the pudding that we had before. I remember the silly look on everyone's face as we all started laughing, because it's a fun tradition. It was just as dumb back then, I'm sure. And that's why you do it. But how can you get that over social media? So much of it's washed out. It's like you're watching it's like when the Native Americans think that, I don't know if there's apocryphal or not, but people think that if you took a picture of them, it would take their soul away. Or like but there's no soul in a lot of this stuff. And people don't really they're going to watch a lawnmower on live stream. And that's what it seems to have as much impression.
Lawnmower has soul.
Yeah. It's like all
it's
of
got a name.
Soul Train.
So
I would say it depends on context. It depends on what it is. If it's a method of farming or a method of growing, it can become tradition after you implement it and then pass that on. But most things now are so empty, like you said, nothing really has a soul anymore. People don't value anything anymore.
Well,
You're
so as far as
extremely consumerist or you're minimalist.
As far as traditions being passed down over social media, though, I mean, like think of like seed sharing. Like I've gotten a bunch of followers that have sent me seeds that they've grown on their family's homestead for 20 years. And now I have those seeds, and like I will save those seeds and grow them again next year. I don't know. That's tradition-ish, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. You could do the annual "Do we like donuts" seed swap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's the thing I
family
like
tradition.
about seed swaps. The thing I like about seed swaps, you get together with a bunch of guys, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, oh my gosh, you got that? I'd really need to get that. I need to try that. You bring out some weird squash variety they've never seen before, or some nasturtium or something, and it's like they're little kids. You know? It's pretty funny.
Specifically when that seed has years and years of growing
Story. Yeah.
in your climate,
yeah.
in your specific ecozone.
And that's the key, because the seeds have memory, and if
Exactly.
In 70 years,
I fed
one
that
of
for you
Jeremy's
there,
followers.
Yeah, I know. We me and you have talked about that in link.
Sorry, Matt, I cut you off.
That's all right. In 70 years, one of Jeremy's followers is gonna have like a grandson. And be like, Grandpa, why do we send seeds to this Dewey guy? What's his like? Where is It's our tradition.
That's Santa Claus.
That's good.
Santa is Santa Dewey, Mr.
Santa
Dewey.
You have to send him a seed, and you'll get
leave some seeds under your pillow or something with some milk and cookies.
Then donuts will show up.
Yeah.
Leave some donuts, and you'll get some seeds.
But do we like?
It's actually Homestead of Pain. You do bring up actually a good point in that one of the weird traditions that might not be religious. So now I'm gonna like go back against what I just said a little while ago because I'm pretty firm in the religion for tradition. But one of the traditions that does get passed down is hobbies, which before was called apprenticeships. Like I can relate to an 80-year-old engineer because we both work with radios or something. You know, we both, and if you go to a seed swap and you see someone who worked really hard to grow this seed, you get to see that they're competent. And going back to like the subjugation of your own morale, your own self, your own worth, and say like, no, this person, I'm just going to trust them. Seeing older people be competent it has a huge impact on young people, especially if they're both interested in the same silly things. It could be RC cars, it could be seeds, homesteading. Like for engineers, like I talked to some of the engineers that were there when von Braun was brought over in Operation Paperclip, and they would talk about like how all the German scientists would all click their heels when von Braun would enter the room, and just like I was thinking, like, man, I'm talking to a piece of history here. Like he's an old man. I would never think twice to talk to him, but he's passing down this information, and now it's kind of part of me. And then like engineering, so I'm an engineer. Part of it is a lot of us trace our roots way back, like back to Cambridge University. And all this stuff. So these traditions, you can have a non-theistic tradition that is like competency based. And I think to be to whistleblow as a misogynist, I think men are really good about that. We really like to pass down competency, and we really almost idolize like heroes.
And that's through brotherhood that we don't really have much of anymore. And seemingly in most media and shows and television is constantly attacked and belittled at every corner.
Well, another point, kind of going off of what Alex was saying, is like what you do for work could be a tradition. So like I had this tweet a week or two ago. I don't remember. It got a lot of that's stupid type of thing, but it was something talking about like what your great grandfather did for work. And there's a few people that said like, I do what he did. And that was really cool to hear that they were following or like, that they had that generational of craftsmanship, which you rarely see these days, unless you're like in China or like somewhere in Asia or, where they still do things the old way.
If I would have followed in my dad and grandfather's footsteps, I would have been like third generation conventional machinist. And that was not in my wheelhouse. There's 3 lathes and like 4 or 5 milling machines out in the garage, and like they're there. There's all my dad collects all the books going, but he has a machinist handbook from like the 1800s. I found for him on eBay. And,
nice.
Going back ages, and it seems like if I ever had to, he has enough knowledge stored that if I ever felt like I wanted to take that up, I could get more of an education from those books than you can trade schools nowadays. Because now most of that's moved into CNC and automation.
We are having a competency crisis, so our tradition of vocation is kind of falling apart a little bit. I'll point out, not equal across geographic regions, I'm sure, but I see it even in engineering. I don't know how to fix that problem. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of problems here that there's no fix to, and I think when Matt asked us last show afterwards, kind of the question was, can we return to whatever normalcy that we had? And I guess that goes to some of the things you said is like, will we be able to regain that sense of competency in the trades and in knowledge? And I don't think we will.
It only takes one person though to pass it on. Luckily, takes.
I mean,
not there's going to be like one last guy who knows how to cook food.
And then it takes one generation to lose it.
I don't know. So with with YouTube, etc., right? So is it tradition? Maybe it's not your tradition, but I think, like I said earlier, you could pick up a whole lot of skills that aren't, necessarily, in your hereditary genes, if you will, through things like YouTube, right? And so, one guy goes out there and he puts together a video that shows this is how I do things. Again, you can appropriate that and you can go about doing things that same way. And I think now with social media, with YouTube and other means of electronic media, there's more of an opportunity to do that, more so now than there ever was. Before, you had to join a guild and you had to apprentice for many, many years. And then you guarded that and you kept that and you didn't share that, right? And so now all of those barriers are broken down. I mean, how did you guys learn most everything you know? You didn't learn it from your family, did you?
No,
not at all.
No.
You went on YouTube. You basically learned. You self-taught.
Yeah. I spent
Between
3
YouTube and
years.
books.
I spent 3 years in books and on YouTube before I ever went into my horticulture science program, and what we're being taught is nothing compared to what you learn.
So you appropriated somebody else's tradition.
Well, most of the people I even learned it from. It's just like it's become its own. The word escapes me, but it's just become just a collection of knowledge there on YouTube, basically as an archive of a bunch of different methods from a bunch of different places. One of the people I first started watching was Self-Sufficient Me. He's in Australia.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
He's in. That's why I have 83 raised beds. So I mean,
he loves his raised beds.
I mean, I'm not tilling on a rocky mountain, but just to even break ground. But most of his tips were helpful. But you very quickly outpace a lot of the casual content makers on YouTube, because most of those tips will circle back and get repeated.
That's true.
And then you have to find it elsewhere.
I mean, and it does. This makes me think of where you can really see where tradition, with the lack of tradition, actually falters. Though, and I'm thinking of one of my neighbors who's a great guy. He's about 10 minutes away.
He's listening to this.
Yeah, he could be. Talk about one of the original homesteaders, 30-year CSA farmer, built every building on his farm, including two houses, nice barns and stuff. But so I'm not taking away anything that he's done, and he's just now into retirement. But I've interacted with some of his last interns, and they learned things from him after 30 years of experience, and then they've gone on to other farms and ran into migrant laborers that do things 10 times faster, and they're like, holy cow, we learned from Ken, who's this god in the field. But he's just making, he didn't have the internet or anything, right? So he's doing all these things on his own, and he's a smart guy, but he just, in this one example, didn't have efficiencies. And so, it's easy to be like, I'm doing it the way Ken did it, because he's
Yeah, man.
in the trenches and he's got the tradition, and it's actually not the best way. It's just the way he cobbled together. When we put the knowledge on a pedestal, but he's just one of us out here trying to figure it out.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron on that for sure. I mean, if you look back at like scientific history, the invention of chemistry was like a dozen dudes, and
Back and forth.
I would say degenerate, but there's some weird people. These are the kind of guys that would find out which mushrooms would work or not. But like it's just pure guess and test. People go through blood, sweat, tears, and they find the 5% efficient method, and then they get eclipsed by people later. But they need to be eclipsed. I don't know. They're just
even that isn't science itself isn't like traditional. It's not linear. There's like revolutions and revelations that happen that break down all preconceived methods and ideas, right? And that's how we make leaps and bounds. So if you look through like the evolution of science, there's they basically kind of go linear and then they spike up, and there's this huge thing like the iPad or the iPhone, right? And things like that are earth-shattering, and people think in a totally different way. So yeah, I wouldn't even think that science and technology is there's really tradition slows you down.
It certainly can. The tradition is that I've been able to ebb out of engineering is in terms of your mindset and in terms of the way you think. It's almost more a philosophical tradition, right? Like if you take a look at some of the engineers that broke through, a lot of them had a lot of reverence for those who came before them, even though they made the people who came before them completely irrelevant. And like even Isaac Newton, I stand on the shoulders of giants kind of thing. There's a certain reverence. The public sphere doesn't see this reverence at all. Like they just see like, oh yeah, those old fogies, they didn't know what they were doing. Now we got iPads. But like the guys who invented, like Steve Wozniak, who helped found Apple and was the technology guy, he had probably had a ton of reverence for the engineers at Bell Labs or the engineers that were the vacuum tube guys.
But they didn't bow down to tradition, is my point.
They were about innovation and progress, right?
Yeah, the medium changed, but I think the mindset stays. Kind of like how the first people who worked with steel were a continuation of the people who worked with iron, who were a continuation of the people who worked with bronze. Like your furnace, your ingredients, all this stuff has changed, but at the end of the day, we're all sitting in kind of the same cubicles we have been since probably the late 1800s.
Well, but but you look at that Gen Z and like they're fundamentally changing, how we work. So there's progress right there.
Well,
let's talk about that, because Gen Z
is it progress?
Supposedly parting.
It's progressive. Moving
what's
forward. I don't know. I guess
But my
that's a really
question
interesting
is,
point.
You look at Gen Z, they're kids my age, and then Alpha, and then I don't even know what's after that. We're still fresh. We have no, for the most part, real world experience. What are we reinventing?
All right.
What are we changing?
I want to hit this real quick. So about the cubicles and Gen Z and changing the way that we work, working from home, working remotely, traveling the world. Like think about. So I work from home. I'm not Gen Z, but I work from home, and in that environment, I can go back to the land a little bit. I can work from home. I can go out on my lunch break and do some things. I can work up until 7:30 in the morning. I can get back out there at 5:15 in the afternoon. I have more time at home to live off of the land of sorts. So
would that not?
It's progress, yes, but it's also a return to tradition at the same time. Yeah, it's I would say it's a later just millennials.
Because I would say the Gen Zs are basically hustling. Everything has just become finding a hustle from, cutting grass, pressure washing, baking food. It's just everything kind of seems to be finding a hustle instead of a job.
It's either that or watching people mow their grass.
Yeah, it's either that.
Way to bring it full circle.
And there's still a lot of people who just do the normal teenage stuff, get a job and then, dilly dally around because nothing has consequence anymore.
So I'm kind of curious. So back to Matt's question in his email, what does life look like or what does the future look like for generations beyond the Zoomers?
I heard something on another podcast where in the one of like this guy's predictions was in the future, women will not have to carry a baby anymore. Like they will babies will be born in like bubbles or pods based and
like the Matrix.
Basically,
like the World Order.
Matrix. And so are people going to gravitate towards that, or are they going to gravitate towards tradition and carry the baby themselves?
Listen.
I think you'll have a bifurcation. I think you'll have both.
Yeah.
There will
Yeah,
be
I'd agree with
both.
John on that one. Yeah.
I personally see more of a breakdown before we kind of get to that point of people wholly accepting, which that, in my opinion, would be even bigger farmer than we have now, because everything at that point, from conception to finish, how much money is that going to cost? What is that? What is that now going to cost?
It's like Brave New World, right? You have those people who enjoy Soma and live in this society, and then you have those that are outside of the society, and the two have no interaction with one another whatsoever. They actually don't even know that the other exists.
Yeah,
But
I think that's going to happen. Like,
I feel like that's where we're headed.
But I do think that we'll have, like, just in that specific scenario, you would have both, because the other thing that I would say about Gen Z and I would say generations to come after that is acceptance of everyone for everything that they believe and that they want to do. And so I think that there will be I would assume that there would be, people will be more accepting of, well, you want to do it this way, then you can do it that way. That may be wrong.
That, or maybe there's going to be such an overreaction within the culture, which I personally see around me, of kind of disowning that, of accept everybody, accept all of this, because of where it's led.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And then you look at the same time how what they've pushed during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
So
I have a pendulum swinging back.
And then on top of that, pushing the 15-minute cities and all this stuff that's so restricting.
I have a question for you, young dads. What are you going to? How are you going to advise your children when pursuing a career? Right. This is something I struggle with my boys, or even skills. Right. It's like how do you guide them through their 15 through 18, whatever, on what interests to pursue and how to make a living and how to raise a family, etc.
Well, because you're raising a kid for
maybe this is a topic for an entirely another discussion. But if you haven't struggled with this concept, you will if you have young kids, particularly young men. And so I scratch your head about that, because it's like you're trying to predict. When your great grandparents had this moment with their children, your parents, right, or your grandparents, it was pretty easy. There was very little options. There was a factory in town. There was, you were a teacher or whatever. And in the last 50 years, in the last 20 years, society has changed quite a bit, quite rapidly. And I found myself not even knowing like what options were going to be there in 10 years when my
raising kids for jobs that don't exist yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're combating artificial intelligence, or you're adopting artificial intelligence, automation, all of these things. You got to start thinking about this. And it's like, what role are your children going to play in tomorrow?
That is a good one.
With my 15 and 17-year-olds. And it's been a blessing that they understand what they enjoy. And so my oldest, Dominic, he just loves writing programs. He's programming like daddy, and he's gone on his own. He's hardly hit me up at all for any advice. He's like just gone into his own world with it.
Learn to program, but do a manual labor as well. Learn how to weld, be an electrician.
With AI, I heard programming is a dead skill. I mean, basically, you can tell ChatGPT what you want done, and it'll write.
Yeah,
it's not quite that good.
Okay,
but will it get there?
10 years?
I think it's a while. But
I don't know the answer, but
Okay,
the programmer
you got to
this would
wrestle
be a
with.
guides
great
AI.
another episode, Matt. Right? Do you think?
Yeah,
I wrote it down.
yeah, we could hit it back. Hit it back again.
We'll vote on it after
I think this
we're
would be a good
done
one.
here.
Though. It would. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you're predicting the future, right?
we're coming up on time. What do you guys want to wrap up on?
I have a question if nobody else can think of anything.
Go ahead.
It's specifically to the farm engineer. Why do you not like chicken tractors?
Efficiency.
Okay.
Efficiency. I joke around and call them caged free range.
Okay.
I took a look at them. I actually analyzed them. I went to build one, and I was going through and looking at it, and I was trying to see like what is the advantage, what are the disadvantages, and the chicken. I mean, this is another subject. Chicken tractors purport a couple of different benefits. Like, okay, some people say it'll fertilize your land. Some people say it'll loosen it, like till it because they'll scratch it up. Other people say that it gives them a nice protection against elements and all that stuff. Now, for specific stuff, like if you got a big hawk problem, I could see some benefit to it for sure. But for the rest of that, I would use a machine or even just my own back. So to study efficiency, that's what I did. I used to work in a factory. I would be the engineer who would make the factory efficient. First thing you got to do is do it by hand. So you have a baseline, and then you decide, okay, based on the amount of time I save, how much is that worth in terms of buying a tiller? Okay, to find out if it's worth it. Because you can spend a ton of money on stuff you don't need. Like, I don't own a pickup truck because I can shove 8-foot boards in the back of my Honda Fit and still make it work. It just isn't, the delta cost just isn't there. And it looks funny as heck, and I got them sticking out the back with the hatchback. But
okay,
uh,
I understand what you mean now. So you're saying
Pictures of you are all over social media with 8-foot boards sitting on the back of that car.
Oh yeah, man! I did that the other day.
The most efficient vehicle there is.
I assume the boards are going to be more expensive than the car. That's what's going to happen. And then I'm just
yeah. So your kind of whole premise was people were using the chicken tractor for more than just what chicken tractors, in my opinion, are kind of made for, is to move chickens in a confined space to raise out for butchering.
Yeah, if you wanted meat chickens outside, that would probably, I would probably just put them in a Quetzal hut and keep them in a confined area. Because
you might as well put them in an air-conditioned building then.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah.
I mean,
so if you
I do all my chickens outside.
If you want factory efficiency, then you might as well put them in a factory.
Well, it depends on how much capital you want to spend on it, right? Because the factory environment costs money, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. So all of my chickens are just in a fixed coop, and I figured out that about 900 square feet of free range space is enough to keep them happy. And I just have a fixed area, and that way I can build pretty strong fences. I mean, if you have a hawk problem, I can see why you'd want a thing above you. But if I want to raise chickens, that's how I do it. That way I can go out there. I've got a route that takes
what kind of
15 minutes. I've got Orpingtons, Barred Rocks. I've done Cornish Cross before. I don't raise chickens for meat.
Okay, so that there's no reason to use chicken tractors with egg layers.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of when I first saw that, when you tweet that, I was like, I just had a problem.
Well, nobody said that. I've never heard anyone say that, by the way. Like, people, okay, it's not my problem with the chicken tractors. It's the fact that people think it does a million things that it's not for. And sometimes traditions have misinformation built into the tradition.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna hit this stuff hard because I need to challenge you guys on it, right?
Ask you. I mean, you're not
going to. It's a misapplication of a technology.
Yeah, because you're not going to use a chicken tractor to till pasture. But if you want to say use that in a regenerative space in like a market garden, you could have a really narrow, long chicken tractor you run through, old crop to kind of freshen the bed and then replant. But using that for any mass change is very not likely, unless.
Well,
I'd have to quantify how much regeneration is going on. So I'm a big fan of doing soil samples and trying to find out.
Meat birds and Cornish cross are not going to go away from the dish, even in the chicken tractor. They just sit there and they eat until their hearts explode and their legs break. So I mean,
I don't find that, but we could wait for the chicken episode. But
a chicken duel. I'll put a video camera out with mine, and I have Wi-Fi out there.
Chicken TV.
Yeah, you can
return to tradition and build the coop. So there you go.
Yep.
All right, let's wrap up. Christopher, Go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking of chickens, I'm working on a coop door opener with phone notifications. And then after that, planning to expand across the backyard and all the small agricultural space with sensors. And hello, I'm way over here. There we go.
Forget it.
Yeah, forget it. Anyway, so just hit me up on securecoop.com. There is a coupon on the mailing list, and there's an ebook, and there's a coupon below, so you can combine them together. I'm running a pre-sale because I'm still working on the kinks out of the prototype, and I think I'm pretty close. I'm wrapping up the beta testing of the software right now, and the hardware beta testing is next, and I don't think that's going to be a problem. So we'll see, but getting close.
Awesome. Thank you, Christopher.
Yep.
Alex, go ahead.
And Chris, we should talk because I'm an embedded software engineer. So that'd be.
Come on.
I'm more interested in weather. That's been the biggest bugaboo for me. For me on my side, I am working on a very large video. I'm probably going to become one of the YouTube creators that makes like an hour-long video once every couple of months. That's how I'm going to do it. And it is a bit about making the tradition and documenting what has been working. And I encourage everyone to do that. And the more disagreement we have in this field, the better. I welcome it. It's good. So keep an eye on my YouTube channel, and have a blessed day.
Awesome. Hang up for just a second.
Hang
Scott.
Yeah, check out Thrive in the Future podcast. This week we have, like I said, Michael Thomas from Catholic Land Movement on. Also, this week we have a Thriving Community Call where we're talking about what is your biggest challenge that you have right now. So if you'd like to join similar to this thing, go to thriveinthefuture.com and sign up, and you'll get a Zoom link.
Grant and I will be there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be
so
there.
we've got the
definitely.
lineup. We've got Matt, Grant, Homestead Padre, and Perpend all on there.
It's gonna be fun. Thank you. And Grant.
I've been posting on TikTok again. I've run out of ideas again. I don't really have much. I don't have much to share. But yeah, I'll be here, and then there on Thursday.
Thank you for being here.
Too busy with ABC Totes.
Jeremy.
Do we like donuts? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. A couple others out there somewhere that I don't pay any attention to, but yep. Chickens, gardening, homesteading, stuff.
I'll add it to your banner next time. Stuff.
Future streaming chicken feed.
Yay.
Yeah. Tip and feed a chicken.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can't cheap out.
That's like version 2. That's gonna be down the road.
It's got to be like black fly larva feed. You can't cheap out on them.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, here's the thing though.
Live mealworms.
What's the company? Grubterra? I guarantee you I could get them to send me all kinds of stuff if I
Cool.
would.
There you go.
They'd sponsor the crap out of it too.
Yeah.
There you go.
You just have a little logo on
Hustling.
your feeder.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. And John.
Yep, John with Amber Oaks Ranch. We raise beef, pork, chicken, and lamb on pasture. You can find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as YouTube.
Remind people where you are.
Anything that says Amber Oaks Ranch, that's me.
Austin, Texas.
Oh, yeah. Location? Oh, in reality? Yeah. I'm about an hour northeast of Boston.
All right. Good. Thank you. And Drake.
Just want to say thank you guys for having me again. A really enjoyable conversation, and just about time to be picking up nuts and starting your own tree nursery. So get out there and see what's falling from the trees.
Yeah, Drake,
Excellent.
you're in Canada, right?
I am. Yep, on the North Shore of Lake Erie, between Toronto and Detroit.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's about chestnut time for you, right?
Yeah, everything's looking good this year too.
Chestnut time.
Hazelnuts. It's all coming.
Thanks, Drake.
Thank you guys.
And where am I? There I am. Matt from hoplife.com. I do interviews, dispense forum, and I've been starting a new series, Famous Farmers. So check it out in your podcast feed.
How's the 20 by 23 project going?
Don't ask. That'll be my challenge for Thursday, right? All right. Thanks guys for being here, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Next week, I don't know what we're talking about. We're gonna next 2 weeks, whatever. We're gonna talk about it. Bye.
I waved too. You just couldn't see me.